Welcome, dear students. This is the second part of the chapter in the Kingdom of Fools. As we have seen, the bricklayer had made a wrong wall, and now he started saying, or he started blaming the other person. Let's see what happens in the story next. Before the king could order the execution, what do we mean by execution? The final killing. The poor bricklayer pleaded. He started requesting, please listen to me before you give your orders. It's true I built this wall and it was no good. But this was because my mind was not on it. I remember very well a dancing girl who was going up and down that street all day with the anklets jingling. Anklets are the jewelry that the girls they wear on their toes or their legs. Okay, so anklets were jingling, they were making sounds, and I couldn't keep my eyes or my mind on the wall I was building. You must get that dancing girl. I know where she lives. So he says, I know where she lives. You must punish her. You're right, the case deepens. We must look into it. It is not easy to judge such complicated cases. Let's get the dancer wherever she is. So he says that his mind was on the dancer who was moving up and down the street, and the king agrees that okay, you are right, we should punish this dancing girl because it was because of her that you were distracted. The dancing girl, now an old woman, came trembling. So as you can see, now she has become an old woman. I tried to animate so that you can very well recall to the story. So the king is asking, did you walk up and down the street many years ago while this poor man was building a wall? Did you see him? She says, yes, my lord, I remember it very well. So you did walk up and down with your anklets jingling. You were young and you distracted him, so he built a bad wall. It has fallen on a poor burglar and killed him. You have killed an innocent man. You have to be punished. So the king says, lady, you have to be punished because you are responsible for killing somebody. She thought for a minute and said, my lord, wait, I know why I was walking up and down the street. As you know, this is a story of blame game. So now the merchant has blamed to the bricklayer come to the girl will blame somebody else. I had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for me. So she had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for her. He was a lazy scoundrel. He was a very bad person. He was a very lazy person. He made so many excuses, said he would give it now, he would give it then, and so on all the day. He made me walk up and down to his house a dozen times. So he called her 12 times. That was when this bricklayer saw me. It's not my fault. It's my lord, it's a damn goldsmith's fault. So she is cursing him. She says it's not because of me, it is because of the goldsmith. Poor thing. She is absolutely right, thought the king, weighing the evidence. Evidence is proof. We have got the real culprit at last. Get the goldsmith wherever he is hiding at once. The king's bailiff searched for the goldsmith who was hiding in a corner in his shop. The bailiff means a person who is an official of the court. So the king's men, they went to take this person. When he heard the accusation against him, accusation means the kind of thing which is put against him, he had his own story to tell. He says, my lord, he said, I am a poor goldsmith. It's true, I made this dancer come many times to my door. I gave her excuses because I couldn't finish making a jewelry before I had finished the rich merchant's order. They had a wedding coming and they wouldn't wait. You know how impatient these rich men are. So he gives his part of the story. He says, I know that I made this girl come many times to my door, but this was because I had some orders from very rich people, and rich merchants, as you know, they are important. Who is this rich merchant who kept you from finishing the poor woman's jewelry, made her walk up and down, which distracted the bricklayer, which made a mess of his wall, which has now fallen on an innocent man and killed him? Can you name him? So now after this comes the actual story. The goldsmith named the merchant, and he was none other than the original owner of the house whose wall had fallen. So now you see that the circle of justice is complete. Now justice had come full circle, thought the king, back to the merchant. When he was rudely summoned back, so he was rudely called again to the court, and he arrived crying, it wasn't me, but my father who ordered the jewelry. He is dead, I am innocent. So he said, it's not me, my father ordered the jewelry maybe for my marriage, but then my father is gone, I am innocent. But the king consulted his minister and ruled decisively. He gave his orders with the decision, with the authority. It's true, your father is the true murderer. He is dead, but somebody must be punished in his place. You have inherited everything from that criminal father of yours. So he says, you have taken everything in inheritance from your father, and he was a criminal. His riches as well as his sins. I knew at once, even when I first set eyes on you, that you were at the root of this horrible crime. You must die. So he gives the order that you are supposed to die. So this is the picture of the merchant. He is called again, and the king says you are supposed to be died. And he ordered a new stake to be made. A stake is a platform like this, as you can see. The person is hanged, and then a rod or a sword of a thing is impaled in their body. Okay, so the one stake I told you in the class, that's a guillotine, that's not a stake. This is the perfect stake. A new stake to be ready for the execution. As the servant sharpened the stake and got it ready for the final impaling. Impaling is inserting a kind of a rod in the body of the criminal. It occurred to the minister that the rich merchant was somehow too thin to be properly executed on the stake. They realized that they cannot burn him or they cannot kill him on this stake. Okay, stake is used for burning as well. He appealed to king's common sense. Okay, so this thing came to the king's common sense, that ironically this rich merchant was very thin. So see, the story is full of so many ironies. The king, too worried about it, what shall we do, he said, when suddenly it struck him that all they needed was to find a fat man enough to fit the stake. So they wanted a man who was so fat who could fit the stake properly. The servants were immediately sent all over the town looking for a man who would fit the stake, and their eyes fell on the disciple who had fattened himself for months of bananas and ghee and rice and wheat. So now you see that the story comes back to the guru and the disciple, where this disciple was busy eating and he had become fat like a sacred bull. Now he says, what have I done wrong? I am innocent. I am a sannyasi. He cried. That may be true, but it's the royal decree, royal order, that we should find a man fit enough to fit the stake. They said, and carried him to the place of execution. This person was taken again. He remembered his wise guru's words. This is a city of fools. You don't know what they will do next. While he was waiting for death, he prayed to his guru in his heart, asking him to hear his cry wherever he was. So now he realized his guru's words of wisdom. As I mentioned, the theme of the story is importance of wisdom. He realized what his guru was trying to say, that it is a country or it is a city of fools and you never know what they will do next. And now he has landed up in so much of trouble just for the sake of love of his food. The guru saw everything in a vision. He had magic powers. Because it's a fictional story and it is a Kannada folktale, as I told you. So magic powers were real in those tales. He could see far and he could see the future and he could see the present and the past. He arrived at once to save his disciple who had got himself into such a scrape through love of food. Scrape means a difficult situation. Okay, so because of love of food, he has come to this situation. As soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple and told him something in a whisper. He said something in his ears. Then he went to the king and addressed him, O wisest of kings, who is greater, the guru or the disciple? He asked. Of course, the guru, no doubt about it. Why do you ask? So he's asking, why are you asking? Obviously, the guru is the greater. He asked the king. Then put me on the stake first, put my disciple to death after me. So he told the king that I want to die first. When the disciple heard this, he understood and began to clamor. He started to shout, me first. You brought me here first. Put me to death first, not him. So he says, no, sir. You please kill me. The guru and the disciple now got into a fight about who should go first. They started fighting. I'll die first. I'll die first. The king was puzzled by this behavior. He asked the guru, why do you want to die? We chose him because we needed a man fat for the stake. You shouldn't ask me such question. Put me to death first, replied the guru. So guru said, no, I am not answering you, just kill me. Why? There's some mystery here. As a wise man, you must make me understand. So the king says, you please make me understand what is happening here. So, will you promise to put me to death if I tell you? Asked the guru. The king gave him his solemn, formal, dignified word. The guru took him aside out of the servant's earshot and whispered to him, do you know why we want to die right now? The two of us, we have been all over the world, but we have never found a city like this or a king like you. The stake is the stake of the God of justice. It's new. It's never has a criminal on it. Whoever dies on it first will be reborn as the king of this country, and whoever goes next will be the future minister of this country. We are sick of our ascetic life. What do we mean by ascetic? The life of a sage, the life of a sannyasi, discipline. So they wanted to die, and this is a hypothetical story created by the guru. He said that whoever will die first will become the king in the next life. Whoever will die second will become the minister. It would be nice to enjoy ourselves as king and minister for a while. Now keep your word, my lord, and put us to death. Me first, remember. So he said, you remember that you have to kill me first. Okay. The king was now thrown into deep thought. He didn't want to lose the kingdom to somebody else in the next round of life. See the foolish king. He is now the king. If he dies all of a sudden today, he will not be born as the king again. He has to have to pass through the stages of life. He'll be born as a child, then he has to go through infancy, then become a teenager, then the king. He needed time. So he ordered the execution postponed to the next day and talked in secret with his minister. So he started having a word with his minister. It's not right for us to give over the kingdom to others in the next life. Let's go on the stake ourselves and we'll be reborn as the king and the minister again. Holy men do not tell lies, he said, and the minister agreed. They had the greed for the throne, and that's why they decided to kill themselves. So he told the executioners, we'll send the criminals tonight. When the first man comes to you, put him to death first. Then do the same to the second man. They are my orders. Don't make any mistake. And now they are servants. So what will the servants do? And these people were consulting. And then after this, they went. That night, the king and his minister went secretly to the prison, released the guru and the disciple, disguised themselves, that is, dressed up, like you have a fancy dress. So they disguised themselves as the two, and as arranged beforehand with loyal servants, were taken to the stake and promptly executed. Promptly means perfectly executed, killed. When the bodies were taken down to be thrown to crows and vultures, the people panicked. Now people were confused. They saw before them the dead bodies of the king and the minister. The city was in confusion. All night they mourned. Mourning is crying, and now you see why they are crying at the night, because night is the day. And discuss the future of the kingdom. Some people suddenly thought of the guru and the disciple and caught up with them as they were preparing to leave the town unnoticed. So Guru and the disciple were going without being noticed. We people need a king and a minister, said someone. Others agreed. They begged the Guru and the disciple to be the king and the minister. It didn't take many arguments to persuade the disciple. Thus he agreed. The disciple was agreeing. But it took longer to persuade the Guru. They finally agreed to rule the kingdom of the foolish king and the silly minister on the condition that they could change all the old laws. From then on, night would again be night and day would again be day, and you could get nothing for a Duru. It became like any other place. So this place became a normal place once the Guru and the sannyasi, the Guru and the disciple, they decided to rule the kingdom, and now they have become the new king and the new minister. So I have already shared with you the question answers and everything. In case of any doubts, please let me know. I hope you find this video helpful. Thank you.